Hi everyone. So basically I've been given this question quite often as to whether should I go for a CFA or an FRM. My answer till date has always been the same, that please watch the introduction lecture, make sure you go through the syllabus part and the scope part in a lot of detail and then take a call. Yet again, I would like to discuss and go through it in a very quick in a very quick glance as to what's the basic difference between CFA and FRM. So firstly, when you're looking at the exam format, CFA has got 3 levels and FRM will be having 2 levels. In the 3 levels of CFA, it is a 3-hour paper each. So a CFA level 1 would be a 9 to 12 and a 2 to 5 exam, 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Per level, there are 2 papers of 3 hours each. In case of FRM, there are only 2 levels and they are of 4 hours each. So one exam, level 1 is 1 4-hour paper, level 2 is 1 4-hour paper, and CFA level 1 will be having 2 3-hour papers, level 2 will have 2 3-hour papers. When we are looking at level 1, you have 120 MCQs each in each of the 3 hours. Right, they are single questions, individual questions, 120 questions 9 to 12, 120 questions 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock. In level 3, level 2, we have 60 questions in the first 9 to 12 and 60 questions 2 to 5. Now the 60 questions are not individual questions, but rather what we do is we have something called the item set. So there is a case study kind given and you have about 4 to 6 questions. Most case studies would be having like a 6 question. There are a few case studies, 3 or 4 I believe, 3 I believe, would be having 4 questions. So case study would be like a 2 or a 3 page data given about some situation and something, not exactly case study, but details given about a situation, and then 6 questions pertaining to that. So therefore total 60 questions. So there will be about 10 or 11 case studies with 4 to 6 questions each, and we will have 60 questions in 3 hours and 60 questions in 3 hours. You would see that the time duration is the same, but the number of questions have become halved. In level 3, we have the morning half, 9 to 12 essay type, and 2 to 5 is going to be MCQ based. Now when you're looking at essay type question, the Indian students should not confuse it with the essays or the long 2-page, 3-page answers that we have to write. It is actually more like an objective type answer. But please remember, essay type questions will be like a 180 mark paper. So you have questions wherein you have to circle one of the 3 points and give 2 reasons about it, or write 3 points or 3 reasons about it. Sums and all are also there a little bit, but basically it's not long essay type answers, it's objective questions. So your concept needs to be extremely thorough. Then when you're looking at FRM, you have 2 levels. First level is 100 MCQs in 4-hour paper, and level 2 is also 80 MCQs in a 4-hour paper. Both the levels do not have any negative marking, but CFA would be having 3 options per question and MCQs, and FRM would be having 4 options, 4 MCQ options per question. Moving forward to the duration. So what is the shortest duration in which you can complete the course? So CFA, you can give your level 1 exams, you can take your level 1 exams in December and June, but level 2 and level 3 can take place, you can take the exams only in June. So generally the exams are on the first Saturday or Sunday, generally it's first Saturday of December, and June it's somewhere in the middle of the June, somewhere on the 15th or the 20th of June. So the earliest you can do your CFA exams would be, you give your level 1 in December, you give your level 2 in June, and you give your level 3 in next year June. So in 1.5 years time frame, you can complete your CFA exams. FRM on the other hand takes place on the 3rd Saturday of May and November, and both the levels take place in May and November each. So you can take the exam in the month of May level 1 and November level 2, or November level 1, May level 2. You can also take both the levels together, but I would like you to ping on the number given below. You'll get an answer as to why or how can you or cannot do both the parts together, because you'll have to do FRM exams are 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock first level and 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock second level. If you do not clear the first level, you will not be evaluated on the second level. I don't want to get into that discussion about both the levels together. You can ping on the number given below and they'll share the details with you. So that is the duration. So the shortest duration in which I can do CFA is 1.5 years. FRM would be, ideally I would be saying a year, 6 months in one level and 6 months another level. You can wrap it up in 6 months as well, maybe in case you're a student and a non-working student in that case. When you're looking at the cost of both the levels, CFA would be relatively more expensive in terms that it has 3 levels. It would be around $2,000 to $2,400. FRM is going to be around $1,100. Now please mind you that if you are not able to clear one of the exams and you reappear for the exam fee is going to get added, which is somewhere around $650 for CFA, and I believe it's around $350 for FRM. You can check the CFA Institute and the GARP website. GARP is the Institute for FRM, in order to get the updated details on deadlines and registrations and all of that. So deadlines and registrations, please refer to the Institute link. Now, coming to the most important part, syllabus, I'll just very briefly discuss about the syllabus part, but please make sure that before you take a call as to, that I want to go ahead with a CFA or I want to go ahead with an FRM, please make sure that you go through the entire introduction playlist of CFA or FRM. Before investing your money, time, effort, and giving a direction to your career, it's very important you take an informed decision. So in the introduction playlist, I've discussed about the syllabus, spending around an hour or so, how to prepare, from where to prepare, how to give the exam and everything in much detail. That is the first class. It's a mandatory class for anybody who's doing a CFA or an FRM. So that is going to be the first class that you have to attend. So make sure that you watch that before you begin with and make a firm decision, a choice basically. But in general, when we're looking at the CFA and the FRM, so CFA has got about 10 subjects. We're looking at quants, we're looking at economics, we're looking at FRA, we're looking at portfolio, derivatives, economics I've written, so equity, fixed income, alternate investment, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm falling short of 2. That would be portfolio, derivatives, equity, fixed income, alternate investment, quants, ethics, and corporate finance. So these are the 10 subjects which you would be looking at CFA. In CFA, what happens is the weightage of these subjects keep on changing as you move from level 1 to 2 and to 3. There will be certain overlap with respect to the FRM also. FRM, you would find an overlap with quants. You will find an overlap with portfolio, with derivatives, and with fixed income. These are the subjects where you would find there is an overlap with CFA and FRM. Now CFA derivatives for CFA level 1 and 2, both the content together, if you see, you will have an overlap with FRM level 1, right? Portfolio of CFA level 1 only is going to overlap with FRM level 1. Level 2 only partially, and quants, when you are seeing CFA level 1, 2 together, is going to be having an overlap with FRM level 1's quants. Now let me come to CFA first, and I'll get into the FRM part. So CFA is basically a course on finance, a specialization in finance. Whereas in FRM, basically what happens is, in FRM L1, we will have subjects, one is on quants, one is foundation, one is financial markets, I'll explain all of these, and one is valuation part. But in level 2, what happens in case of FRM, you have market risk, you have credit risk, you have investment risk, you have operational risk, you have current issues. So basically in FRM, in the first level, you're doing your general finance related study. But in FRM level 2, you are not studying finance in general, but all your subjects are very much focused into the risk management area. So market risk, credit risk, operational risk, which also has a portion of liquidity risk, and market credit, investment, operational risk, and current issues. So current issues is basically whatever is going on in the market right now. Fintech, big data, blockchain, whatever comes in is more concurrent. We discuss those. And market risk is about how the values of securities are changing. Credit risk with respect to banks primarily. Operational risk, again, a little bit of banking work is there, Basel norms and all. Investment risk, of course, you understand from the word itself. But in level 1, you are studying quants, you are studying a lot of derivatives and fixed income, and a little bit of portfolio in the foundations book. Now what happens in the CFA is, in level 1, these subjects have different weightages. Level 2, they have different weightages. Level 3, we have lower weightage for corporate finance is out, FRA is out, and equity is there, but they are kind of more into the portfolio approach. So you would see, you'll have to go through the syllabus in much more detail when you're making a comparison between CFA and FRM. You have to watch the entire CFA syllabus part of the introduction lecture, and FRM also you'll have to watch the entire syllabus part of the introduction playlist. Make sure you do that before you take a call. So CFA is about more of generalized finance. I'll discuss when I talk about job profiles again. So it's more about generalized finance, where you learn about quants, economics, financial reporting analysis. this. You don't make accounts, you're supposed to be analyzing financial reports, balance sheets, etc. Portfolio as to how to put assets together and analyze all the group of assets, equity, fixed income, etc. together. Derivative is for risk management actually. So derivative is for hedging, speculation, etc. I know a lot of you may not be able to understand these terms, and hence I'm telling you I've discussed the subjects in a lot of detail in the syllabus part of the introduction playlist. I'll not repeat that again. So derivatives is about management of risk, hedging, speculation, all that. Equity is equity valuation, how do you price shares and all. Fixed income is about bonds and fixed income security valuation, bonds, debt and all. Alternate investment would be about hedge funds, private equity, commodities, real estate, etc. Corporate finance is about the finance within an organization, how much loan to take, whether to give dividend or not, mergers, acquisitions, all of those things. And ethics, of course, is very important in any profession. There is a chapter on ethics even in FRM level 1. So ethics, no doubt, in any profession, be it doctors, lawyers, teachers, every profession, ethics is of paramount importance. When you're looking at FRM, basically what happens is, in level 1, the first book is Foundation, which gives you a lot of theoretical background, a lot of understanding about a variety of things in risk domain and finance and all of that. And it also talks about your portfolio part is also included over here, ethics, GAAP, code of conduct, data issues and all those things. Quants is basically focused again on the statistics part, probabilities, annuities, regression, all of those. And you need to have an understanding about quants in order to be able to make forecasts in the future. When you're looking at financial markets, so it's full with derivatives and fixed income and also your valuation chapter. There's a lot about value at risk, capital structure in banks, bank, insurance company, hedge funds, how they work. So there are mutual funds and all, how they work. So there are quite a few theory chapters as well in capital, in operational risk, stress testing and all of those things. I'll discuss the job profiles and talk about the application part. And risk management, again, when you're looking at the level 2 curriculum, is focused solely on risk management. So to summarize that, CFA would be a course specializing in finance, and FRM would be a course specializing in finance and the risk management area. So it's pertaining more to a specific area, that is your risk management domain. I'll discuss how and which profiles are going to be working for that. The very popular question that I get is a preparation time for the exams. So basically in CFA, level 1 has got 60 questions, chapters, level 2 has got 50 readings and level 3 has got 40 readings. But you can understand that the size of the readings in level 3 is quite extensive. I'm just giving an approximation, there could be a couple of chapters here and there. 60 chapters would be relatively, since you're being more introduced. Now finance, just to clarify, finance is not something that is only for commerce students, because engineers, science, arts, all the students study finance. Finance itself is a stream altogether. That is why you would see a good chunk of engineers and all getting into B schools and then getting into finance. So that would not be an issue. So that is why in level 1 we have a lot of readings where, because you are introducing almost everything, because even to commerce students, except for maybe economics and a little bit of accounts and FRA, all the subjects would be relatively very new. And FRA is not about making accounts, because I know people get scared about it, but it's about interpreting, reading the balance sheet of a company. So even if you're working in a bank, you need to be able to read the profit and loss account, the balance sheet of a company. It's to be able to understand, comprehend, read, and not to make. So don't worry about that. Another question, I'll just tell you that and then again move with this. That is, students have a query with respect to mathematics. So will they be able to manage if they do not have maths? Of course, I would tell you, once we're looking at maths, it's not that I'm solving difficult questions on logarithm. There is no trigo calculus and all that. It's not that we are solving difficult questions on logarithm, difficult questions on triangles and all that. It's not like that. The focus is on probability, and not difficult sums of probability, but application of probability, statistics, regression. Statistics will be having all mean, averages, standard deviation and all that, and everything is done from scratch, so you don't have to worry. Of course, those who did not have maths in class 11 and 12 would be having relatively will have to put in a little more effort, because there will be compound interest, simple interest part. So of course, if you don't understand compound interest, we will be doing everything from scratch, but you'll have to put in more effort if you do not have maths in class 11 and 12. So I would not lie on that, but that is how it is. But people manage, and that's not going to be an issue. It's just one subject out of all these. So in level 2 we have generally 60 readings, level 2 50 chapters, and level 3 40 chapters, whereas we have 70 and 80 chapters respectively in level 1 and 2 in FRM. But you have to understand that the chapters are very lengthy over here. There will be quite a few small chapters as well, and over here we'll have relatively smaller chapters. There will be quite a few difficult lengthy chapters as well, but the volume is going to be more or less very similar, if I could say so. On an average, you would be needing 200, approximately 200. Maybe in level 2 and level 3, the number of hours goes down a little bit as compared to level 1, which is approximately 200 hours. And that's because in level 2, level 3, you already have a base, a foundation to work on. So in level 1, you have to, every single term has to be explained very well in details and all. And similarly with FRM level 1, level 2 would be having less number of hours, even though the number of chapters are more, and level 1 would be having approximately 200 plus hours. The exact one you can just request and get the details. So 200 hours, I'm just talking about the lectures. So that's approximately around, let's say 3 hours per chapter, 3.5, 4 hours. Of course, there will be chapters with 5 hours also, and there will be ones which I can complete in an hour or 2. That is about the classes. And then you have to study. So you do a class, you attend a class or watch a class, you study that very well, and then you practice. That has to be done for both the CFA and FRM, all the levels. So you have to study, you have to attend the class, and then study and practice. Now you would have to see what kind of I cannot give you an exact time frame as to what number of hours you would need, but just imagine if I'm doing like 3 hours for a chapter, 3 hours on an average as a class, I'll take another couple of hours to study. That depends on how well you've concentrated in the class, and then maybe another couple of hours to practice, and then you multiply that by 60. So that is the kind of time frame we would be looking at. Maybe around 6 hours, 7 hours. I would take like 3 plus 3 plus 6, 7 or 8, so 7 into 60 would be around 400, 500 hours of study. And again, it depends from, from a person's speed. Another thing is those who are not in touch with studies, I get this question very often, that they've started working and they are studying after 10 years or so. It's just the first 15 hours of classes and studying and all that is going to be a little difficult and, putting in the mode of studying and all that. But later on, ultimately we're all students. We're all studying. We should be studying for lifetime if we want to grow. So you don't have to worry. The first 15-20 hours is a little difficult. Then it becomes absolutely fine. So that's your preparation time, and it's going to be the same for all the levels, because number of chapters might be going down, but difficulty level goes up, of course, as you move above, higher up the level, and the difficulty level of questions also will be going up as you move up. So level 1, say level 2, level 3, questions of level 2 and 3 will be more difficult as compared to level 1. Now, with respect to the theory part and the practical part, another question is that I cannot mug up a lot. See, even if the questions are a mix of theory and practical. When I'm saying theory and practical, I would rather use another term, numerical and non-numerical. So questions in the exam paper would be numerical as well as non-numerical, but even the non-numerical questions are going to be very, very conceptual, because you not be asked direct questions that tell me 3 reasons about this, 2 reasons about that, what is the advantage, disadvantage and all that. The questions are going to be very thought-provoking. So if you're mugging up, you will not be able to clear the exams, in my experience. You have to be very, very thorough with your base, your concepts, your foundation, your understanding, because otherwise you'll not be able to interpret the question and then answer. The questions are not going to be direct, they will be an application. So you have to understand the question and then answer. So I would call it a mix of numerical and non-numerical questions. But as you see, level 1 and level 2 will have more numbers and sums and all. Level 3 has a relatively much lower content of sums in CFA, and FRM level 1 would again have a lot more numericals and number crunching. Level 2 would be much lower. When I talk about number crunching, I'm not talking about quants, I'm not talking about maths, because even if you're working with derivatives or equity shares or valuation or pricing or all of these, they're all numbers. Ultimately you're working with numbers, forecasts and all that. So, and even when you're looking with financial reports, ratio analysis, profit ratio, net profit, sales, all these are figures. So when I'm talking about numbers or numericals, I'm not referring to quants alone. Then when you're looking at the difficulty level, so for someone who mugs up, it's going to be very difficult. For someone who has a very good understanding, who wants to understand and learn and not just mug up, he will have relatively very, very low difficulty. Now when I compare CFA with respect to FRM, I would believe CFA would be relatively more difficult, but it would be a little wrong to say that way. CFA level 1 would be less difficult as compared to FRM level 1, and FRM level 2, I cannot compare with level 2 CFA and level 3 CFA because they're very different. Because FRM level 2 will have more subjective content, less numerical, and it's a little extensive content, and it's more around the banking area. So if you want to understand the syllabus of FRM level 2 in more detail, please again watch the syllabus part of the L2 introduction playlist. So you will get a much detailed and a better idea about the same. But if you watch the FRM L1 also, you can take a call. I think you need to watch the L1 part. So it's difficult to compare, but CFA L1 would be relatively easier compared to FRM level 1, that I can tell you. With respect to pass rates, it's going to be somewhere around 38 to 45% with CFA. At higher levels, the pass rate is high. Now, you might be feeling that higher levels pass rate should be low, but the thing is that out of the 35-40% people who have passed, let's say level 1, out of the people who have passed, people are appearing for level 2. So therefore, the pass rates are generally on the higher side for level 2 and 3 and on the lower side for level 1. Generally around 38, 40, even 45. It goes to 45, but somewhere close to 40. And with FRM level 2, it's generally, FRM level 1 and 2, it's generally in the range of 40, 50. And it's the same. Level 1 would be more on the 40 side and level 2 would be more on the 50 side. Coming to the job profiles part. Now, when you're looking at the job profile, a CFA would be fitting in multiple roles, any role basically related to finance. So that would be equity research, research analyst, portfolio manager, treasury, trading, stock trading, finance department of a company, forensic auditing, investment banking, mergers acquisitions, valuation expert. So anything and everything to do with finance and also to do with business basically, because you need a very good financial decision making ability, CFO or whatever, in order to be able to do business. So anything related to finance. When you're looking at FRM, I would say that it is going to be a little specific and it would not fit in every single role of finance. It would be more to do with banking sector, financial institution sector, so insurance industry, banking industry, NBFCs, stock trading companies, firms, etc. Because risk management has become very, very important. So oil prices going up and down, energy related companies. So anywhere wherever there is a risk management part needed, FRM becomes very important. But banking sector, financial institutions, all finance related institutions and companies, and stock market related companies and all, and energy companies, because here the risk management part becomes very important. So that is where you would be finding more of job roles. Another thing is the eligibility part. So I've discussed more about the job profiles in the scope part of the introduction playlist. Eligibility part would be that for a CFA, you would need to be either in your last year of graduation, final year of graduation, or you need to have a work experience of 4 years, or a combination of 4 years in terms of work ex plus studies together has to be 4 years. So then you can appear for CFA. So in the last year you can appear, you somewhere start off in India with your BCom and all, you start studying in second year so that you give your exam in the third year. That's your last year. Colleges abroad, you have a 4-year graduation, so you'll have to accordingly fill in the eligibility criteria. Also, with respect to FRM, there is no as such eligibility criteria, so you can take up FRM as you please. With respect to another question that I get, another thing is the audience. Who should take up CFA or who should take up FRM? So if you want to build a career in finance, you should take up CFA. If you want to build a career in finance as well as specialize in the risk management area, get in the banking, financial sector, energy sector, etc., you could be looking at the you should be looking at the FRM designation. MBAs, I've seen MBAs doing it, so I've discussed one, why should MBAs do a CFA or FRM? There are certain MBAs who should not, there are certain ones who should, or engineers should or should not do FRM. There are other videos, you can just see the link and all below, and you can check that. So you'll have a more specific answer if an MBA should do, if an engineer should do or not. With respect to another question, that is whether to do CFA or FRM, which one to do first. So if you are deciding that you want to do both, I've done both. So if I decide as to, I want to do both the CFA and the FRM designations, then how should I go about it? So first of all, there is no problem in starting with CFA first or FRM first, because if you start with CFA first, you'll find FRM L1 easier. If you start with FRM L1 first, you'll find CFA L1 easier, because as I told you, there are certain overlaps. But when you're looking at the CFA and FRM, if you want to do it both together, one, if you're not qualifying the eligibility criteria for CFA, so in that case you have to start with FRM first. Makes no sense wasting time, and then you get into CFA part. If you are satisfying the eligibility criteria for both CFA and FRM, in that case it's easier to start with CFA and then to start with FRM. So maybe you do an L1 and an L2 in December and June with CFA, then November FRM L1, then June CFA level 3, and then another November FRM L2. So it becomes easier that way, it works out basically. So draw a timeline, see which level you want to give at what point of time, and then decide and then take a call. But you should I would again suggest you to watch the syllabus part and the scope part of CFA and FRM before you take a call and put in that kind of money, time, effort and everything and energy into this. that's more or less about it, I believe, and you'll find more answers in the introduction playlist. I just wanted to give you a summary kind of a thing, because I get this question very often that, you know, whether to do a CFA or an FRM, right? I hope this helps. Thank you.